Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into one of the most secretive and isolated countries in the world, North Korea. Because believe me, when it comes to North Korea, the more you learn, the weirder, and frankly, more concerning it gets. This is a country where reality itself seems to be written by someone who just lost a game of Mad Libs. Stick around, and we'll uncover 10 lesser-known facts about North Korea that might just make you spit out your beverage of choice. And if you're not currently consuming a beverage, well, prepare to be mentally parched for one. Okay, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're starting with a real humdinger. In North Korea, they have this delightful little policy called 3 generations of punishment. Essentially, if you're convicted of a crime serious enough to warrant the government's ire, congratulations! You've won an all-expenses-paid trip to a labor camp. But here's the kicker. Your kids get to go too. And if you're lucky enough to have grandkids, well, pack their tiny little prison jumpsuits, because they're joining the party. It's like a twisted game of hereditary hot potato, except instead of a potato, it's years of forced labor and unimaginable hardship. Now, you might be thinking, surely there must be some kind of oversight, some way to appeal this. This is North Korea we're talking about. Their idea of due process is letting you choose the color of the truck that takes you to the gulag. It's a way to keep the population in a perpetual state of fear, knowing that any misstep, any whisper of disagreement, could have repercussions that echo through generations. It's cruel, it's inhumane, and it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the bizarre reality of North Korea. Let's talk about the internet, shall we? That magical realm of cat videos, conspiracy theories, and the occasional educational article. We can dream, can't we? Well, in North Korea, the internet, as we know it, essentially doesn't exist for your average Kim and/or Yong. Instead, they have what can only be described as a heavily monitored, government-controlled digital playground called Kwangmyong. Imagine a world where the only websites you can access are pre-approved by the state, where every search result is carefully curated to fit the narrative. That's Kwangmyong in a nutshell. Now, I know what you're thinking. Couldn't they just, use a VPN? I hear NordVPN is having a sale. Firstly, VPNs are strictly forbidden in North Korea. The government controls the flow of information so tightly that accessing anything beyond their approved list is like trying to outrun a cheetah on a unicycle. You might get a few feet, but ultimately, you're going to end up flat on your face. Alright, let's move on to something a bit lighter, shall we? Let's talk about hair, specifically, the hair on your head. In the land of the Kims, even your hairstyle is a political statement. Forget about expressing your individuality with a funky mohawk or a vibrant shade of pink. The North Korean government, in all its infinite wisdom, has decided that there are only 28 acceptable hairstyles for its citizens. Men get a whopping 10 options, while women get a slightly more generous 18. And these aren't exactly cutting-edge styles, folks. We're talking about variations on a theme, with names like the Dear Leader and the Socialist Chic. Not only are your hairstyle choices severely limited, but deviating from the approved list can actually land you in hot water. We're talking fines, public shaming, and in some cases, even a forced trip to the barber. It's like something out of a dystopian novel, except it's real life in North Korea. Because in North Korea, even your hair can be a tool of the regime. Birthdays! A time for cake, presents, and awkward renditions of Happy Birthday sung slightly off-key. Unless you're in North Korea, that is. Because in this bastion of joy and merriment, certain birthdays are strictly off-limits. And by certain birthdays, I mean July 8th and December 17th. Why these dates, you ask? Well, because they mark the death anniversaries of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, respectively. In North Korea, it's considered incredibly disrespectful to celebrate anything, let alone your own birth, on the same day that one of their dear leaders shuffled off this mortal coil. So, if you happen to be born on either of these dates and you find yourself living in North Korea, well, I hope you like quiet contemplation and somber reflection, because that's about as festive as it's going to get. Now let's talk about something truly spectacular, albeit in a slightly unsettling way. The Arirang Mass Games. Imagine, if you will, a stadium filled with tens of thousands of performers, all moving in perfect unison. It's a dazzling display of synchronized gymnastics, dance, and, of course, a healthy dose of propaganda. Picture this, a sea of brightly colored costumes, intricate formations that would make a marching band weep with envy, and giant mosaic pictures created by thousands of people holding up colored cards. But here's the thing. Behind the dazzling spectacle lies a darker truth. Performers, many of whom are just children, train for months on end, often in grueling conditions, all for the glory of the state. It's a breathtaking spectacle, to be sure, but one that's impossible to separate from the authoritarian regime that orchestrates it. Let's talk traffic, shall we? Specifically, the lack thereof in Pyongyang, North Korea's capital city. Pyongyang is a city devoid of traffic lights. Instead, they have these immaculately dressed women, often referred to as traffic maidens, who direct the flow of vehicles with balletic precision. They're like human stop signs, only far more elegant and far less likely to be run over by an irate motorist. These women are chosen not just for their traffic management skills, but also for their beauty and loyalty to the regime. It's a coveted position, one that comes with certain perks, like better housing and access to scarce goods. It's a uniquely North Korean solution to a universal problem. Time. It marches on, relentless and unforgiving. Unless you're in North Korea, where time marches to the beat of a very different drummer. You see, North Korea has its own calendar, known as the Juche Calendar. And this isn't just some quirky cultural thing. It's the official calendar of the state, used for everything from government documents to everyday life. It starts with the birth year of Kim Il-sung, the country's eternal president, as year 1. So, for example, the year 2023 in the Gregorian calendar is the year 112 in the Juche Calendar. By adopting its own calendar, North Korea further isolates itself from the rest of the world, creating a temporal bubble where Kim Il-sung is eternally present. It's a subtle form of propaganda, but one that permeates every aspect of North Korean life. Let's talk about something a bit more serious, shall we? Religion. Now, North Korea's constitution technically guarantees freedom of religion. However, as with many things in North Korea, the reality is far more complicated. In practice, North Korea is an atheist state, with the Kim family as the object of a personality cult that borders on religious worship. Think portraits in every home, giant statues dotting the landscape, and mandatory study sessions dedicated to the leaders' lives and teachings. While technically other religions are allowed to exist, they're heavily monitored, restricted, and often subject to persecution. In North Korea, there's only room for one true faith, the worship of the Kim Dynasty. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to descend into the depths of North Korea, literally. Let's talk about the Pyongyang Metro, one of the deepest subway systems in the world. I'm talking stations buried more than 100 meters underground. But here's the thing, the Pyongyang Metro isn't just a subway system. It's also a giant underground art gallery dedicated to the glory of the Kim Dynasty. The Pyongyang Metro is a symbol of the country's progress and resilience, but it's also a way to control the narrative, to immerse citizens in a world where the Kim family is omnipresent. It's a fascinating, albeit slightly eerie, glimpse into the North Korean psyche. All right, folks, we're wrapping up our whirlwind tour of North Korea with a look at something near and dear to my heart, the media. Specifically, the lack thereof in North Korea. In North Korea, access to foreign media is strictly controlled, with severe penalties for those caught consuming it. We're talking state-run television, radio stations that only play approved music and propaganda broadcasts, and newspapers that read like they were written by a team of robots programmed to churn out praise for the regime. It's like living in a giant echo chamber, where the only voices you hear are those that have been carefully vetted by the government. North Korea has one of the most sophisticated internet censorship systems in the world. Accessing anything beyond their approved list of websites is nearly impossible, and even if you manage to find a way, the consequences can be dire. It's a stark reminder that in North Korea, information is power, and the government has a monopoly on both. So there you have it, folks. 10 shocking facts about North Korea that might just make you want to hug your nearest internet router a little tighter. It's a country of contradictions, a place where beauty and brutality coexist, where the past is ever present and the future is uncertain. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research, read up on the country's history, and draw your own conclusions. Thanks for watching. If you found these facts about North Korea surprising, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more intriguing content. See you next time.